Welcome to Three, a show about Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic, and part of the Tennis Channel podcast network. I'm Gill with Joel Drucker and Amy Lundy, and something felt a little bit different coming into Madrid. What is it? Well, for the first time since Roland Garros last year, it's been almost a year, Djokovic and Nadal are both in the field. What a concept. It has been far too long since that's happened, and excited to break down the draw. They're also both in the top half. Carlos Alcaraz is there as well. So it is a crowded space in that top half of the draw. But let's start with Nadal. Okay. He starts the year and he's coming off an injury layoff. And I know that especially Joel and I were like, okay, let's temper our expectations. It seems like it's been a tough past 6 months for Rafa from an injury standpoint. And we know the rest. He goes undefeated all the way up until the Indian Wells final. Now he does it again on a much smaller scale, misses a little bit of time, has the cracked rib. What should the expectations be now, Amy? Right away, just Madrid.
Low for a few reasons. These are not, saying that this isn't his best clay is, like saying that chocolate isn't my favorite ice cream. I still love it. But there were some media reports from earlier today that he was having a little bit of pain on the practice court. This is Madrid, that the clay conditions are a little bit faster and it's at altitude, so the ball bounces higher. Well, that's good for him because he hits with a lot of topspin, but anyone who hits topspin at him, he's going to have to torque that much more to spin the ball. If it's coming like this at him, he's got to spin it back and torque that rib even more. So with the high bounce, my expectations are basement for Nadal. And I just hope that he gives himself an opportunity to heal and that he doesn't have to withdraw.
Yeah, we reversed, but Joel, you go ahead first, but Amy and I 360'd here.
Oh, really? Oh, you 360'd.
Yeah,
oh.
because I want you to go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of see it that way too. I think, look, Nadal hasn't played in a few months, and that's a really good point you make, Amy, about how, well, everybody's altitude aided here. So Rafa's got to deal with this. He's got to take it as much as he can dish it out. And I think the most important thing for Nadal, stay healthy. For he's going to play 2 tournaments between now and Roland Garros. And I hope, look, he's won this tournament 4 times on clay. Once he won it when it was indoors, another time. So, but I just hope he stays healthy enough and nothing. That's a serious injury. That's not just one of your strains or sprains. So I'm kind of crossing my fingers and hoping he's going to stay okay. Gill?
He hasn't missed that much time though. So I'm looking at it as a period of time that's very palatable. And I expect him to hit the ground running. Now, the point about Madrid being a more difficult tournament for him conditions wise, fully agree. Very, impossible to argue with. He has taken some losses in recent years, 2 quarterfinal losses in the last 3 years, another in the semi. So it's been a second since he's been in a final. I think he sometimes just has trouble controlling the ball in the altitude. And this is a servers tournament. Big servers do great here because of how thin the air is. And, Nadal just doesn't really have the advantage or the tool in the big first serve to take advantage of what the conditions are offering. Look at last year's finalists, Zverev and Berrettini. They have that. So in terms of Madrid not being ideal, I'm fully agree with that. But I don't know. He's only been out for a month, and it feels like for Nadal, that's nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was going to be, I was surprised to hear that he entered this tournament. I thought it was going to be maybe Rome. And then I was even wondering what it was going to be, but I guess, wow, this time flies pretty fast. It was just barely 6 weeks ago he was in the desert.
Right.
Right.
Not that, I am a doctor by any means, but I know that you can get a stress fracture in your foot from just running, from just the repeated and a minor fracture that isn't like from blunt trauma, like he wasn't in a car accident or nothing hit him or anything like that. It's one of those things that I feel like it has to fully heal, and you have to go out and test it to see if it has healed. And so maybe that was his thinking, like, this will be my test. I'll get in some reps, I'll get in some competition. It's in my home country. I'll fulfill my sponsor obligations. I'll see the fans and sign my autographs. And if it doesn't work out, then I can rest up and get ready for Rome.
Oh, and by the way, when you talk about the thing about the basement, it's like precisely the part in the building Rafael enjoys occupying. I mean, you can only imagine his pre-tournament, post-match, pre-match comments. I mean, he sets the bar there when he's in the best of health. So now he's in this whole other thing from a cracked rib. I mean, this is even like the foot. And so he's going to be happy to just win a point. You know what I mean? And no matter who he plays and what the opponent may challenge, and it will be a challenge, of course. But it's just kind of, I hope he most of all stays healthy, because that's what we really want to most see, is these guys have a fair shot to compete.
I think he will. And, I just don't know if I appreciate the fact that he wants to play in Spain. He had to miss Barcelona, a tournament he always likes to play. But if he wasn't fully there, there would be no reason for him to play Madrid, really, or if there was any risk. So, I'm just thinking that he's probably physically in a pretty good space. I was surprised, though, I will say, that when he got back on court and said, okay, I'm hitting for the first time, it wasn't that long ago, right?
No, I was like, are you sure? Is this is this true? And then we got the report from Uncle Tony that he would play Madrid, and Gill and I were skeptical of that, because if he had just been out on court for the first time, but like you said, Gill, he really only missed a month.
It would be neat to talk to. It'd be interesting to talk to a doctor and have him show an x-ray that shows the extent of this injury. And then you do like a time lapse that says, this is how mortals age 30, 40, 50, 60 recover from this. And you see, and it takes this long over this many weeks. This is what it's like if you're a world-class athlete, or how that works. Because obviously the whole aspect of how these guys recover from these injuries. I mean, I'm thinking last year of how Taylor Fritz had knee surgery after the French and played Wimbledon. Right. And of course, it's also, there's these technologies and the extent, I guess you'd have to know the extent. Well, Nadal had a cracked rib, right?
Right. So bone, if you're a world-class athlete, bone heals faster. I mean, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either. Right. Yeah. We're a bunch of communication.
Well, hey, we can say this with confidence. The diligence in rehabilitation is something that,
that's true.
An ordinary citizen, a non-athlete, is not going to be able to match, right? These athletes wake up every day, and this is their job. So
job is called Now Get Better. So you're going to do your stretches, and you're going to have someone to put you through them, and the equipment. That's a great point.
Yeah, like I had bad knee injuries, and I was bad. I was terrible about rehabbing. I tried my best, but it just wasn't what it could have been. So, and I think a lot of people are probably in the same boat as me. It's hard to focus every day on rehab.
Right.
So, in the draw, it will be the winner of Kecmanovic and Bublik. We've talked a little bit about Kecmanovic this year. Joel, what do you think of that as a first match back for Nadal?
That's a rough for us. That's a really good player. Kecmanovic. I mean,
right.
He's really, I mean, I'm very impressed when I watch him play. I find him physical and powerful. I noticed, though, a lot of these players are playing even better since I got an HD TV. It's really very impressive to see. I mean, he's good. I mean, so then it's a question of, it's like, if he just doesn't think he's playing Nadal and he's just playing this ball. But it's a tough match. I think I don't like to predict, but I think he'll beat Bublik.
I do too.
Okay, good. Gill's the clay expert. Yeah, too.
And the clay expert knows that Bublik has some ability to do well on clay, but doesn't seem to want to commit himself to competing on the surface, because he doesn't enjoy it.
Well, there are these series of players, just like Bublik, Benoit Paire, Kyrgios, guys who like don't. I mean, they're different styles, but it's like I'm gonna play when I want to play, and let's see how it kind of goes. And and it's kind of different. It's so different than the Rafa mentality.
Yeah, but Bublik retired against Pablo Carreño Busta in the last match. I mean, I still don't know why he retired. He just walked off the court.
He said afterwards he just doesn't like playing on clay.
There you go. I just don't want to. Yeah. And then you've got a guy like, I mean, you talk about suffering, Carreño Busta. I mean, the guy's going to be playing another 17 years.
Yeah. Well, I just looked up Nadal's head-to-head against Kecmanovic, and he's 1-0. Beat him. I mean, this was like eons ago in the Mexican Open in February of 2020. So that was like, Kecmanovic has grown so much as a player since then. And it's a tough one if that ends up being the matchup for Rafa. But I mean, look at his half of the draw. I mean, it's kind of a nightmare, and it's really a nightmare for anyone else that's in that because of Alcaraz and Djokovic also being in that half.
Yeah, Kecmanovic at his best with how solid his backhand is, how comfortable he is taking the ball early, and the fact that he's just clearly a top 20 player at this moment in time, even though his ranking doesn't say that. That's tough. I mean, now he could be tired because he's still in Munich. He has made quarterfinal or better in like each of his last 5 events. So it has been a lot of tennis. So, maybe Nadal can get a lesser version of Kecmanovic. We will see. As for Novak Djokovic, we covered him in Monte Carlo and Belgrade, and we all feel like things are kind of on schedule, on track for Novak in this clay season, despite the fact that he hasn't been great. So, Joel, what does Novak need to show, or what do you think he wants to show this week?
I think this week he wouldn't mind winning this title for the 4th time. I mean, he'd like to do that. He was in the final at the home tournament. He fought through some matches, had a frustrating closing to that final, bageled in the 3rd set. But I think it's time for him. All right, now we got to kind of start kicking something into gear. We did win Roland Garros last year, didn't we? And now it's time to show the world what number 1 really looks like.
And with it being a faster surface, one would think that he could make some headway here. I think, Gill, correct me if I'm wrong, the guy, if it goes to chalk, that would be the highest seed in his quarter would be Casper Ruud. Is
Correct.
that right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Ruud is your stereotypical clay court player, and this isn't like other clay. And I think I looked up Ruud's record in Madrid, and he may have a couple quarterfinals or maybe a semifinal in there somewhere.
He does have a semi.
He does. Okay. But he hasn't won the thing, and when he comes up against a big server like a Zverev or something like that, then this Madrid isn't ideal for him. So Ruud can be had if that ends up being the situation. But then just looking ahead in the draw at Alcaraz, that's obviously a matchup that we would all love to see.
We want to see Alcaraz at this stage. We want to see him play anyone, anywhere, to see how he just continues to show how great he is, how great he could be. I mean, this guy's won 3 tournaments on 3 continents this year.
Wow.
That's something. So yeah, and the chance to see him yet again play a 3. I mean, the Nadal match in Indian Wells is one of the best matches of the year, and now we obviously want to see him play Novak. That's just fantastic.
Let's go to the immediate first opponent, though. So wild card from Spain, Carlos Gimeno Valero. I haven't heard of him, and he plays Gael Monfils. Are we in the same boat? I mean, I'm confident in saying, there's not that many players who I haven't seen. I just haven't seen that the Spanish wild card yet.
No, I've not seen him play. So then it's going to question of where things are at with Monfils, and we see.
There was a big
Monfils. I'm just remembering. That's like, what is it? A 16-0, 18-0 for Djokovic. It's a ridiculous.
Oh, Novak
head-to-head.
Him a zillion times, and so right. Some good tennis. Monfils puts up pretty good battle. I think they had a very close Paris indoor final one year. I think a third set tiebreaker, and but that was a long time ago. I think Monfils doesn't want to be part of Novak on clay. The only person he wants to play less on clay than Novak would be Rafa.
Exactly.
There was a controversy surrounding the wild cards for this tournament.
Yes.
You know, Andy Murray got one, and people were saying, I think Fernando Verdasco said that these should really go to predominantly Spanish players. So if that guy that you mentioned got a wild card, Gill, he must be pretty good.
I guess because Verdasco didn't get one, and that's something that's unfortunate. And
Wow.
IMG bought the tournament, and that means IMG wants, it's going to get to give its clients wild cards, because that's how wild cards work. It's I liked what you said on Twitter, Amy. They are wild. They are not intended to be fair. And, they kind of are what you are. The more you kind of try to litigate them, the more frustrated you're going to get.
Or
Yeah.
they could be fair. Some of them could be fair. Some of them may be because of a friend relationship. Some of them may be a sponsor thing. There are any number of reasons. And I do think that is legit, because I've known people that have benefited from a relationship, just somebody babysat for somebody, and this, that, my parent knew the tournament director and whatever, and they got an opportunity that was life-changing or unforgettable. So I'm actually okay with it. And I thought Andy Murray had a good point when he said, well, I was perfectly willing to play qualifiers for this, but I was offered a wild card. What am I supposed to do? Say no?
Yeah, exactly. They're wild cards. I mean, they're not meant to be. Sometimes they are for loyal service, but other times, promising young player, iconic older player, and some players, some veteran players, they're neither of either. They weren't number one in the world, and they're not 17 years old. So what? But sometimes, depending on what's available, and wild cards into these Masters 1000, that's a real premium. I mean, wild cards for 250s. All right, who wants a wild card?
Right.
Right. So,
And in this case, Carlos Jimeno Valero is world number 369.
how old is he?
He was born in 2001.
Is
So I suppose he's 21.
okay, 21 or 20 or 20. Yeah, okay.
And actually, Novak beat him earlier this month. Dennis Novak.
Oh,
I was like, you got me, Gill. I was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I slept through that match.
I was thinking, fun with wild cards. I was like, what's this, like is this like the Wordle of the new wild card? Name that wild. I can name that wild card in 3 losses.
All right. Well, yeah, I agree with what you said, Joel, in the beginning, that it would be it's time for Djokovic to start actually kind of looking more like his best self at this point. Now he's had a couple of weeks to kind of rev things up and get into his best form. In a bit of a downer news, Boris Becker today sentenced 2.5 years in jail or prison for basically covering up assets after he declared for bankruptcy. Joel, this is very jarring news for a 7-time major champion and a really tough turn of events.
It is really tough. And Boris Becker has had a real up and down time of it since his playing days ended. All the different things with families and marriage and money and even physical things. And it's sad to see it come to that for him at this stage. So I hope he's able to find his way through it. And again, we're talking about him with Novak. I mean, they had a good track record together.
I gave him an extra slam. I said 7. He's won 6.
Yeah,
Okay.
Boris won 6. That's right.
And I think that there was the record consecutive most Grand Slam matches won, something like that. They had a hugely successful partnership. And I know that after they parted, that's when Boris started to get into some of his financial troubles, and Novak made a statement at the time that, you know, he felt bad for him and wanted to do whatever he could to help, but things took a turn for the worse when I guess Becker didn't have that structure in his life. And it's really sad for me because he was the guy that kind of introduced me to tennis when I was a little girl. I saw him win Wimbledon and I was completely captivated. I thought it was really cool how he was diving all over the grass, and he had this Boom Boom Becker nickname, and it made me really want to pick up the racket. So I'm super sad. I hope that he does his time, and that, you know, like it is here in the United States, if you're a good, you know, citizen behind bars, that they'll commute your sentence, or they'll shorten it, and that he can get out and get his life together.
Shall we move on to Federer? We have news. He has, and I think this came from the tournament. He is scheduled for Basel. So that appears to be the target comeback for Roger Federer. What to make of that, Amy?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but he didn't say that he would not be coming back before then, or did he? Did he say, like, that will be my first one, or did he leave open the door that he might come back even sooner?
I
am not. No, see, I don't, because the thing is, right, my interpretation is Roger didn't say anything. I feel like the Swiss indoors were like, Federer's coming.
Oh, right. So he could come back sooner. That was my point.
It's possible. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Back sooner.
Yeah. That when I read the news, that was the first thing that came to me. Like, okay.
He stated a while ago that he wasn't going to, like, Wimbledon was kind of doubtful, right? And there's something about the US Open, right? Was that a while ago? Is that what we're hearing?
Yeah, but that wasn't out of his mouth. That was like Lubitsch or somebody else. But let me just say that he's been more active on social media. He has been promoting his work that he does in Malawi through his foundation, educational for children. And he's been, you know, posting his workouts and things like that. And I have alerts. I follow his social media very closely, and he was so quiet for many, many months. And now all of a sudden, you know, Roger Federer tweeted Roger Federer on Instagram. So I get the feeling that he's probably turned the corner, and that we'll be seeing more of his workout videos, and we'll be able to really understand where he's at with his movement and his strokes.
From tweets? Well, look, I'm talking. You're like I remember. Was it last year?
Yeah,
you're the zapruder of tweets. You saw this. You see this one tweet. There's like Roger. I didn't like how he didn't seem to like how he hit that backhand. And I'm thinking, oh God, at a million backhands. But sure enough, it's true.
He withdrew.
Yeah. I'm out of here. I tweeted out of here. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll be seeing more of these little vignettes from him. It'll be interesting to see how he communicates.
Yeah, you're so right, Amy, about him being quiet. I feel that his absence, and at times Nadal's absences, have really put into light actually how important the press conference is after, in the post Naomi Osaka French Open debacle era, because I mean, so much has happened in tennis. We literally never hear from Federer on any of this, right? And Nadal, I could tell you right now, after his first round match, there's probably going to be a news cycle for whatever Nadal says on the Wimbledon ban. And that's how these things work, but we begin to realize how reliant we are on these press conferences that are directly tied to matches. It's been so interesting to see that.
It's the one chance that we know is guaranteed that we can ask them a question be it about these world politics things or their injuries or what's going on in their life or their plans for the short term, what tournaments. I mean, it's like guaranteed I'm going to see this person in person, face to face, and I can ask them the question. So yeah, even though that it's called, a clown show, a circus, kabuki theater, Spider-Man, all that, it it is needed. I mean, it is really needed. And I want the fans to understand that and appreciate that there's a job to do. And we do need this time face to face with the players.
Well, it's the last pinky hold of that kind of connection. I was talking for another story I'm doing. I've talked with some from guys who work for newspapers in the 80s and 90s, and we're covering lots of sports, including tennis. And you see the way in tennis that was always difficult compared to other sports in America when it came to, I mean, Amy, you covered other sports like baseball and football and basketball. And it's really interesting how it is and how much athletes are in charge of their messages and how they say things or cannot say things, and lots of things going on, and press conferences. They're not ideal. I mean, I don't love them either, but they pretty much what we got. And so to learn these things and to hear what they say, and you're right. And Roger, look, I'm sure he's made a strategic policy around all these kind of things, not whether it's the pandemic or whether it's the ban or any of that stuff.
Yeah. I saw today, by the way, that teammate and Tony Godsick is considering purchasing Cincinnati as well. I just want to throw that out there. I haven't read anything further than that, but that is happening. So
I have to chuckle at that. I mean, is Roger, is he involved? Is he a principal and teammate still?
He's their biggest client.
He's their biggest client for sure, but I didn't know if he was a part. Roger, like if I went to a Labor Cup or I've been to a couple of Labor Cups, and they are champagne, first class, high-end Rolex affairs. Cincinnati is like dough dipped fried donut.
Hey, don't.
It's great. I love it. You know me, I love the pretzel, but it's Americana, like it's the heartland, and they embrace that.
And it's a real competition. I mean, I know Labor Cup is a competition, but I mean, Cincinnati is its own version of because it's close to a slam, it's never been called a near slam, but it's some great tennis, some important tennis, some high stakes tennis, and a great event and a great community that comes out to watch it.
Yes.
So to own it, okay, so you're saying it's going to be more pretzels than caviar.
Well, I hope. What I want to say with all this, please hear me on this. I hope it keeps its identity. I would not want it to become a champagne and caviar event.
That's impossible. It couldn't. I mean, look at the people. There are people. It was called once. I won't bore with the details, but it was called the ATP Championships, and there was something a way the ATP decided to make an event a certain significance. It's called there are people in Cincinnati, and it stopped. It got a sponsor something in the 80s. There are people in Cincinnati who still call it the ATP. I mean, so it's like it has it's a deep. I mean, I wrote a story a couple years ago about the whole Cincinnati tennis community and its weaving. No, I think it's a neat way of Team 8, and I don't know what Roger's equity or what his role in that is, but of broadening what it wants to be. I mean, like Tony Godsick works at IMG, and IMG doesn't just manage players, manage events and look for revenue streams and all that.
Good point.
We shall see. That right now, of course, just early buzz, nothing official. What is official is Nadal and Djokovic in Madrid. Looking forward to seeing what they can bring to the table in the same draw together for the first time since Roland Garros. We are available on all podcast platforms. We greatly appreciate it if you leave a rating and a review on Apple and Spotify. And if you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you next time on the next episode of 3.